Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this misty forest here. It's kind of called Forest Lights, I think. I'll show you step by step how to do it, and we'll show you some different tips for creating foliage with different kinds of brushes. So that'll be later. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat today, so if you've got questions while I'm painting this, you can ask those while I'm painting, and let's get started. Alrighty, I've got a 9 by 12 inch canvas today. This is a Fredrix mixed media canvas board I'll be using, and for our little mini tutorial lesson tonight, we'll be showing you how to use different brushes to do different kinds of foliage. So we'll be using a sponge, a bristle brush of some sort, a fan brush, a blender, which is one of the ones that I use quite a bit, a Deerfoot Stippler, and an angle brush. So those are kind of the go-to brushes that I will use when I'm doing kind of any kind of trees or foliage and that kind of thing. So we'll be using those later, and I'll show you how, but I'll be using some of those on the canvas as well. For the background, you're going to need a 2-inch brush, either an angle or flat, and then I've got an 8 bright as well. So, and for some of the branches, I'm going to be using a script liner. What?
Sorry, I was trying to make it funny, and I disrupted you.
Okay. Let's go over our colors. I've got carbon black, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow light, phthalo green yellow shade, phthalo blue green shade, ultramarine blue, unbleached titanium, and titanium white. And I'm going to put out some glazing medium too. I forgot to do that. So I'm going to put out some gloss glazing liquid, or you can use matte medium instead if you want. Golden has a matte medium, Golden brand has a matte medium as well that I like. So they both have a little bit of an extender. That'll be helping with the light rays coming through the trees. We went over some of that last week. So we did glazing last week and last week's tutorial with the daffodils. Boy, I'm having a hard time with my words today. Words are hard. Okay. Let's go ahead and get some paint on this canvas here.
Let's do it.
Welcome, everybody. Glad you have joined us. If you are new, please subscribe and be sure to say hi in chat. We really enjoy getting to know our new folks, and we've got a really great group of regulars who come and make everybody feel really welcome, I hope. So
the unusual suspects.
Unusual suspects, yep. How did we start that? It's been a while.
A long time ago, we were talking about the usual suspects, and then it just became the unusual suspects.
Yeah.
And they own it.
Because, we're artists, so we're weird. We're okay.
Different.
Yeah, my son got me a bumper sticker saying it says she's an artist. Oh, I thought she was just weird. So, it was good. Okay, I wet down my canvas. Nothing special to it. I haven't really prepped it at all, but just spraying it down with regular water here. And I'm going to get my angle brush, get a little bit of water on it, and kind of run off the extra on the side there. And I think for the background, I want to go with a medium light blue. So I'm going to go with this phthalo blue, I think. Gonna do a really pretty aqua blue and maybe add just a little bit of green to it to give it that slightly teal leaning. This photo is from Laura Lane Dover. She shared that to me. She sent me an email, and she said that, I think she said it was her backyard. So what a pretty backyard. It's right, butts up right up against the redwood up in the area that my aunt Denise lives in. So shout out to Laura. Thank you for letting me use her photo today. It's really pretty. I'm really excited to paint this. Definitely reminds me of a painting that I did of some redwoods years ago, and if you wanted to really extend this up, I think it would look great. The one that I did was like a 2-foot by 4-foot canvas with a redwood tree on it. I did not do it as a tutorial, so don't look for it. It was years ago. Before YouTube. Before YouTube. All right, so I think that'll be good. I'm just going to kind of put it on fairly light, and I'm going to go ahead and go sort of in this direction that I'm seeing. Actually, the light has these different, the rays are going in different directions coming through the trees, so there's some kind of coming up this way. And this is going to be good. Actually, this is very like transparent here. I did add some white to it, but it's going on pretty transparently, which will actually give it a little bit more of a glowing look than if it was white. You know, too much white will kind of dull it sometimes. So I have all these hairs. I don't know where I'm getting all these little tiny hairs in my canvas, but I'm going to go ahead and sort of just go-ish in the direction of, you know, the sun rays that I'm seeing, just so that if any streaks happen that they're kind of in the right direction. So it's kind of generally like this. Our light is coming from this area or up in here somewhere, and it's coming down kind of to the side on this side and then sort of down and like this over here. So that looks good. And I'm going to pass this to Mark and let him dry that for me. He didn't know he was drying.
Wasn't prepared.
Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, just rinse that out for me. And while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and go over our foliage techniques. And I'm finding out something about myself with this little series of mini lessons, and apparently I cannot draw straight lines around my boxes. Not a one of these is straight. I have a very definite right, left angling happening here, so I don't really know why that is. That one has it, and I tried to do boxes here, and they all kind of lean this way, so I don't know. I don't know what that says about me, but I'm sure somebody has an opinion. All right. That was a total sidebar. Just a no observation of my badly drawn boxes. So we're going to start with the sponge here, and I'm going to use my sponge here. This is just a regular sea sponge. They're very cheap. You can get them in multi-packs for just a few dollars. I think less than $10. You can get a bunch of them in this size, or at least the last time I bought them, they were that much, and this one's lasted me years. After a while, they kind of start to break down a little bit and they'll crumble a little bit, and then that's when you need to replace them. But for now, this one is doing well. I'm going to use some fluid phthalo green here. This will just make it a little bit easier to use the sponge with a little bit wet down paint. And you've seen me use the sponge before. So with the sponge, you're going to have some of these textures that are going long ways and some that are more rounded pockets. So you kind of just have to decide what texture you want on your trees. You can turn it, in different directions and try to get a certain, if you want a certain pattern, you can test it on paper or whatever to see what patterns happen. But they will be a little bit different depending on the part of the sponge that you use. So I think I'm going to use this kind of section right here, maybe right in here. And then what I'm going to do is squeeze it. I don't have a very big area here that I need. I'm going to squeeze it. Somebody call him Mark or something. I don't know. Mark. He just left the room, so I'm not sure what's going on. And load it up with paint. And with sponges, you don't want a lot of paint, a lot of excess paint. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to dab it off on a paper towel. And then I can kind of see the texture, the pattern that's being created too by doing that. That noise is really bothering me, and he is gone. All right, so I'm going to lightly go up and down. With a sponge, you don't generally want to pull side to side unless maybe I'm doing a cloud or something where I want to blend it a little bit, but I want just that texture, so just lightly tapping it. And you see how this kind of repeat happens? So what I like to do is kind of twist it a half turn or a quarter turn each time I do a few. Something's going off over there.
Yep. You're right.
Thank you. And I'm getting kind of a large area there that I don't like, so I'm going to switch to a different part of the sponge. I'm not really sure which part is creating that, but that's what happens when you have too much paint in your sponge too. You can tend to have these blobs that happen that don't, have that kind of airy quality. So you can see how nice you can do a very large area of trees, foliage in a very quick amount of time with a sponge. And they're definitely one of the number one things that I usually grab if I have a large area to cover. So we may use them. My goodness, Mark, tonight, just stop. Okay, and then the Deerfoot Stippler. Sorry about that. We're just trying to... I don't know what's going on that side of the studio tonight. I am going to load that up with paint. I have not gotten water on this. You want to keep these brushes dry. Any kind of natural fiber brushes, you generally want to keep them dry when you're doing stippling or foliage and things. So I'm going to tap, and I always like to tap with the point down just a little bit, because if you tap straight down, you get this weird rounded part at the bottom there. So to kind of avoid that, I like to tap with the point down, and then that way I get kind of more of a line. I can kind of control where it's going a little bit easier. And I'm gonna just go a little bit more heavy at the bottom, maybe a little bit looser at the top there, leaving the little pockets of the background showing, because even with your trees and things like that, you're going to be seeing through them, so you will have little areas where you'll see your background colors. All right, so that's the Deerfoot Stippler, and you can see they're very similar. You can get similar techniques, but the thing with this one is you can get a little bit more control over it. So just in that brush, it's a little bit tighter area, and you can be a little bit more controlled about where that paint is going. All right, and then when I do the highlights too, this being that this is a rounded tip like a filbert, you're going to get a kind of a softer, you can see the edges are nicely rounded there, and so it makes for a nice little bushes and things. All right, then the blender, it's also got a rounded edge, and it's a little bit even more tightly packed. So it's not a natural bristle brush though, so I can get it wet if I want to. It's in this filbert shape. So I'm going to load it up, and this one I load up a little bit thicker with paint, and then I push down on it to kind of spread it out when I'm doing foliage. So I really want to kind of really press down hard, and you can see how much it'll open up that brush. And then I'm going to tap. And if I want it to stay fluffy like that, I need to keep reloading and tap, because if I don't, what happens is that I will start to try to press down to get the paint to come off, and then I'll end up with kind of blobs. And so with foliage, you want to kind of avoid the blobby areas. So you want to use a light pressure with a texture brush, and then that way you can kind of control where it's going. And then some areas in the middle here, I don't mind having that kind of blob happening. But there we go. So that's the blender brush, and this one you can also do grasses. So I'll do some grasses kind of along the bottom here. You can see that. It's not as great as like a fan brush or something for grasses, but you can do, sometimes in small areas, I'll just do a few little grasses. Let me do them with the Deerfoot Stippler too. Deerfoot Stippler actually does a pretty decent job of grasses, so a little bit more loose. I wish I'd left a little bit more room for that, but you get the idea. And I'm not doing another color with these, so these are gonna all look pretty plain, but if I was doing another color, you would go back over it with, I may do it at the end, we'll see. All right, so this is the gesso or hog bristle brush. So they come in very cheap packs. They're really inexpensive brushes. I'm gonna go ahead and use a little bit bigger brush, I think. But with these ones, it's similar to the Deerfoot Stippler. You don't want to wet it down. You want to keep it dry because the hog bristle will retain a lot of moisture and it'll get soggy. Okay, so look at how nice and lovely, soft, fluffy you can get with this. The only bad thing about this is they tend to shed. So you tend to get hairs in your paint. So if you don't mind that, you can use these. I tend to like the synthetic hog bristle, which the Aspen brushes that I use sometimes, I'll show you that. These are a synthetic hog bristle. They're a little bit tighter though. They don't fluff out as much as this, so I don't tend to use them for foliage much, but you can use them. And then this one, you know, obviously if you wanted to, let's go ahead and use this one for the grass. See how that does. So this one is a little bit more tightly packed. The bristles are sticking together a little bit. And being a round brush, you can do different things with this. So this was a great brush for dry brushing when we talked about dry brushing last week. So this would be one that you could pick up really inexpensively and use for dry brushing. And I forgot to mention that last week. So, and then the fan brush. The fan brush is the one that I would use for things like pine trees. So when I'm using that for pine trees, what I'm going to be doing is loading it up pretty thick with paint here. And you want fluid paint though with fan brushes, and just using the edge of the brush. So kind of the corner of the brush, and using it to create these little speckles. And this brush is the Select, so it's not my most, you know, expensive good one. I do like the Aspen. Let me get that one out because I like that one better, I think. I don't know why I'm using the one I don't prefer. So the Aspen one's a little bit softer, and it's gonna do a little bit better job. And I can get a little bit of water on it too. You can get a little bit softer. And so we'll probably use this a little bit tonight when we do our pine trees. We'll probably use this fan brush for that, for a lot of the pine trees. And then of course it's a pro for grass and things like that too. So really good, versatile brush. So I'm going to set that one aside and use that one. And then the last one is the one that you might not think about using, but I'm going to grab an old angle brush. I'm not going to use my good one because I'm going to beat it up a little bit. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to press down on it just like we did the blender, and I can get a little bit of water in here too. There's no reason not to. But tapping it out like that, opening up the bristles. So really any old brush that you have, I should just put old brush, but any old brush you have will work for this kind of technique. And I'm going to just kind of angle it up towards, in the direction that I want that foliage to lay. So like up towards the top of the tree, I might do like this and kind of angle it out a little bit. And depending on the kind of bush. I'm just kind of doing generic little bushes here, depending on the kind of tree or bush that you're doing. You will have different ways you'll hold your brush and, you know, lay your brush strokes down. So, and then the other thing that I use the angle brush to do is actually do little individual leaves, and I'll tip the brush down and just tap along the edge to create like individual leafy branches or individual leaves in the thing there. Okay, and then I can do grass too with it too, holding it on its end, and it works really great for that. So that's it. This is another brush, maybe one that you wouldn't think of, that works really well for foliage and creates kind of really interesting effects. Okay. So I would just say grab a few brushes, try them out, do the same thing, try different colors. So after I do this, I could go back in and I could grab some white and maybe a little bit of yellow. The yellow will make the green look a little bit better because the white kind of makes it look like a sage green, and the yellow will brighten it up, make it look like it's a sunnier natural green. And I can go at the top here and just add some kind of natural little highlights to our bush that it's not showing up against that white background, but I just needed to do that. I don't know why. So there we go. So there's some different foliage techniques. Try that out. If you share it, your practice sheets, and I hope you guys are doing these. I really feel like these are a way to improve your acrylic skills dramatically within a short amount of time. If you're doing these practice, just trying out your brushes, doing different techniques. I have a ton of different techniques that we've gone over. Last week we did the dry brushing and glaze. The week before we used a flat brush to make different marks, and I have a whole video about different brushes with brush strokes that you practice. These would be like scales on your piano. All of these techniques and things that we're going over, we may not be using them for any particular video, but if you do practice them, you get familiar with them using your brush in these different ways to make different, marks, trying different techniques, then when you go to a canvas that you're working on, it's going to be that much easier. It just makes it's building skills, building the muscle memory, and you really will improve, I promise. I would always, when I did my classes, in-person classes, I would always have a practice sheet of brush strokes that I would send home with people and make them practice in between. And you really can see improvement in just a few weeks if you are diligent about doing them. Practice it, try it. Let me know in the comments if you've done it and if you feel like you're seeing results. I would really like to know. All right, so let's get going back on here. So this is a very simple painting, and honestly, it's not going to take us very long. It's just a few things on here, so that's why I'm taking a little bit extra time on our practice stuff. But I think I'm going to go ahead and grab this. It's called a Princeton Artist Brush Gesso, and they have a larger one too. 8450 F-200. I'm guessing the 200 is the size, so this one may be the 100. I'm guessing the smaller one. Yeah, so. And the F for flat, I'm guessing I'm working out their methodology. 5450 would be the number though on it, and I'm not sure if Princeton or if Blick sells them. I'll look and see. I don't know if the Brush Guys has them, but I know he has other bristle brushes, and I have other ones, and I've bought other ones. Let me see. This one is from Escada. This one is a silver brush. This one is a bristle blend that I got from Lowe's. So I think any of these will do very similar things to what we're doing tonight. You don't have to buy those super expensive brushes. All right, so I'm seeing in the background here, like, it looks like there's kind of like a mountain back in here. I don't know that I'm going to put that all in there. So I think I might do just some random foliage back here, just like a light foliage to kind of break up the sameness of this area. And then we'll have these two main trees kind of coming in on either side. This one being much lighter than the one here, obviously. I think that that's the thing that I really like about this. It's got a lot of drama with this really dark tree here and then a lot of light hitting these ones over here. And I did cut off a lot of this image. I'm sorry, Laura. But I couldn't fit all of it in here, and I wanted a little bit of this foreground in here to show kind of the light hitting it and things. I think that's an effective part of it. So let's go ahead and kind of just take our background color. Whenever I'm doing like trees and things that are in the distance and I want to kind of add that feeling of distance, you want to add the background colors, whatever it is that you used on your background. I've already lost a hair there. And I added a little bit of green to it too. So that was our background color. And then I'm going to add a little bit more green and a little bit of burnt sienna. And the burnt sienna is going to take that blue-green and take it from the color, that bright circusy green that we used here. And make it a little bit more natural color, because that obviously doesn't look like a natural green. So yeah, that looks good. And that's gonna have that background color in it that's gonna blend really nicely with what we're gonna be doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a nice large tree right here that kind of just blocks out some of this light here. And just maybe, this isn't like our main tree. We're gonna have some branches coming out in front. So I don't want to cover too much of this middle ground, but I do want to kind of have something in here that takes up some of this space. You can see this hair, trying to see, this is what I'm talking about. It's great for foliage, but you're gonna be battling those hairs and just kind of watch for them. And if you miss one on your canvas, what you can do is just leave it, let it dry, and then pick it off. It usually comes right off. Instead of trying to get it off while it's wet, sometimes you can smear your paint. So if you notice it right away, it's not as big of a deal. But if you like notice it, a few minutes later, and your paint is mostly dry, and then you scrape it, then you can't like blend back over it right away. It can kind of be a pain. So I'm gonna get some more. I'm gonna get some more of just the straight green. So you can see this one had the burnt sienna in it. This one's just got the green. And I'm gonna go in here and add some of that. How's chat doing today? Everybody doing well?
Everybody's doing great.
Good. We're getting ready to go on vacation next week. I'm excited. Can go see grandbabies. Mm-hmm. My favorite. Not that I don't love my kids, but grandbabies are a special kind of gift.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
Pretty awesome. All right, so I'm adding a little bit of this down here at the bottom and kind of scraping up, paying attention to my sun rays and the direction that I'm seeing them hit. Okay. And this is dry brushing, straight up dry brushing. We did this last week. So if you missed that technique, be sure to check that out. Dry brush, light scraping motion, allowing the texture of the canvas to show. All right, I think that looks pretty good. All right, and then on this side, I'm going to go darker. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I'm going to get some of my Phthalo blue and Ultramarine blue. I'm going to add just a little bit of black. I want to go nice and dark, and I can even add a little bit of the, you could use purple too if you have it, if you want to use purple. Kind of thought about adding purple, and I may still add it, but I'm just going to use this all along this edge. This will just kind of fill in this area for me, and then I'll put in my individual branches coming out from this. But this will kind of help fill in this initial area here. Bring that out just a little bit more, and then down here there's some streaks. I'm going to get the Ultramarine blue. There's a lot of area in here that's got a little bit of that light color showing through. And then there's a whole section here that is just dark with kind of along our foreground area here. We'll be putting light rays over the top of this too, so if you get it a little too much or you don't like it, we're not finished here yet. So we'll continue to add more, but let's go ahead and get it as close as we can. And we go a little bit darker with it, a little bit of black with the Ultramarine blue and Phthalo blue. This is kind of that flicking technique that we did a few weeks ago too, so just kind of setting the brush down and quickly flicking it. I am losing so many hairs here. I didn't lose as many before I wet the brush down, and that also helps contribute, because I think I don't know why. Sorry. Honestly. Yeah. It does. Makes them fall out. Okay, so kind of a dark area right there. All right, that's good. Then I'm just going to go ahead and use this brush with my green. Going to get some burnt umber, a little bit of that blue, Phthalo blue, or burnt sienna, I mean, and we'll go ahead and tap in our foreground foliage area, or foreground ground. And bring it up just a little bit more. Looks good. Make sure I get it nice and solid at the bottom here. Nice and dark too, because we're going to be putting patches of light up here on our, where the sun rays are hitting it. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. I might want to go a little bit darker here, so I think what I'm going to do is glaze it. But, yeah, so we want to work on the background first, so we'll finish the background area, and then we'll add our highlights and our tree branches and things. So try to wipe that clean as best I can. Whoops, I got my burnt sienna there on my brush. Great. Got right into that. I try not to clean this out of my water. I try to wipe it clean on my paper towel as much as I can. Get most of it out on the paper towel. And then, of course, afterwards I will use soap and water and rinse it out really good with that. Get another fresh paper towel.
you doing?
Doing good.
So you're telling me that we'll be able to make Oak Island tonight without any problem?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really need to. I'll speed it up a little bit, but I'm stretching for time.
I see him. I can see him searching for a Bobby Dazzler right there in the forest. Can you paint them in there?
Bobby Dazzlers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get. If you don't know what that is, check out Oak Island. Search Bobby Dazzler, Oak Island. You'll get it. You'll get it. All right, so I'm going to use this glaze. I'm going to go over this area with the glaze. That might be a little too dark. I'm going to get the Phthalo blue. I think I just want it to be kind of a little bit more pure, if that makes sense. A little bit not as dark. So it's a really pretty green, or pretty color in the sky here. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to kind of merge all of these dry brush areas together and make a little bit softer look. It'll just kind of soften up the sky and these rays in here. You can see the area that I have not done it and the area that I have done it. Just kind of brings it all together a little bit and just softens it up. Okay, that looks good. I think I'm going to do this with the rest of it because I think I like this better than the dry brush look. It's just a little bit softer. So maybe don't do the dark in this area with the foliage brush. Just to do this area and this area in the grass, and then you can use this is the 8 bright here, and use that for what I'm doing now, the glazing. It'll just give it a little bit less streaks, a little bit less texture. I think it's a little bit more soft and streaked. I'm going to use the corner of it here and it helps if you have a point in mind. So my point is kind of right in here. So I want all of these to kind of be pointing to that spot. Ish. Okay. I'm just darkening this area up because we'll be adding light over the top of it. It'll just kind of make it a little bit more dramatic. Okay, that looks good though, I think. Pretty close to what we see in our picture too. All right. And let's go ahead and glaze in back here a little bit too. And I might glaze a little bit over here. Just darken up some of these areas. Just add a little bit of darker, not everywhere. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of lighter blue to this area right here. So I'm going to use my Phthalo blue, a little bit of Phthalo green, and white.
So were you just using water to glaze?
I was just using water and Phthalo blue to glaze.
Okay.
Or not water, glazing medium.
Oh, glazing medium.
Right.
Okay.
Glazing medium.
Okay.
But you could use water if you don't have glazing medium.
Okay. That doesn't work for donuts, if you were wondering.
No.
They'll just get soggy.
lighter. So I'm going to go maybe 2-3 shades lighter than that original color there. Right, and then I'm going to use a little bit of glaze with it to thin it out. I'm going to start to lay it over very lightly. And then you can use your paper towel to kind of push it back and blend it in to what you've got going on up here. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of put it in my sky a little bit. I don't have a sun necessarily showing, but I'm going to have my trees back here over some of this, and so I want to have a little bit brighter, and these ones are coming this way. Just a little bit brighter light in the sky in this general area here. And then I want to blend that out into the background just a little bit. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of my glaze or water. And I'm just going to kind of lay it out here in kind of an area. And then take my paper towel, wet it down, and kind of just press it around and blend it in to my background color. It's pulling off that color. It's not supposed to do that. So that tells me I didn't use enough glaze in my paint when I originally did that background color. So I need to paint that back in. And that can happen. I really should have thought about that. The fact that I put that background color on so thin, it can cause that to happen because that wet paint kind of reactivates it when you go back over it. So I'm going to try to get a color close to my background. Might not be exact, and that's okay. Doesn't have to be perfectly exact. Exactly the same color. I'm going to go ahead and use this glaze here. Go over it. We're going to have tree branches and all kinds of stuff over here. So don't sweat this kind of thing. People get really caught up in having to match this exactly, right? This does not match at all, but it doesn't really matter. So what I'll do is just take this color. Now I've got it kind of blended in here, and I'm going to add it up and around in some other areas in my sky, and that has now added it to my sky. Now it makes my sky look like we meant to do this all along, you know. Don't have to match your blending exactly every time. Just get it close and then do that, you know. Just kind of blend it around with what you've got, with what's already there. All right, so I'm going to get some more of that light color now. Now that this color is wet, I can kind of paint over it, and it'll kind of blend a little bit easier too, merge a little bit better with what I'm doing here with these light rays. Okay, nice, very soft and subtle. And I'm not trying to do too much yet because I want to put some tree branches over the top of this too. So this isn't like our finished section here, but it's already kind of starting to get that feel. All right, and then there's a pretty bright area kind of down in here where the light is breaking through these trees that are trying to block it. It kind of goes almost in a straight line here, just like this. And we'll be putting kind of some things over the top of this, so it's okay if it's not perfect. But I'm going to blend in both directions, so kind of flick through it in both directions and press it so that it's kind of blending vertically a little bit. And again, keep an eye on the direction that you're doing these so that we're getting them kind of going in the direction that we want. Light rays go in a straight line. So if we know kind of our source, and just maybe we'll say this is our point here, so then everything is gonna kind of line up from that point. You know, if we did a straight line from there, these would all line up to it. That makes sense? Okay.
Yes. If you're asking me and not yourself.
I make sense.
Well, you seemed like you answered yourself there, so I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say yes or not.
Getting some white. And I could use zinc white here too if you wanted to. But there's not a ton of this brighter white, so I'm just going to use a little bit of it right there. Bring this up just a little bit higher. Give myself a little bit more room to work with. Right there. All right, I like it. Almost looks like it's beaming you up, you know? Is that get that vibe?
Mm-hmm. Or it's jumping to light speed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I need to be careful doing this because I'm going to wipe off my paint again. Okay. I don't like those that I just did, but we'll put some stuff over them. So it'll be fine. Get some more of that color though while I still have it. Streak through that. That's good. Okay, I like it. And we'll also probably splatter a little bit, do some speckles. I like to do that kind of speckly sun rays thing. And there's a little bush right here that I'm really gonna make a little bit bigger because I love that it's kind of highlighted right here. So I'm gonna do that, and I think we're ready for it because I think we've got our background pretty well prepped for what we want to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the fan brush because I'll be able to get these tiny little highlighted spots on here. So I'm going to get some phthalo green and cadmium yellow light and make a bright poppy yellow green. All right, and then add some water. When you use a fan brush, you need a little bit of fluid in it. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt sienna. That will just tone it down so it's not so in your face like neon. If you want it neon, you can leave it, but I like to add just a little bit. And then I'm going to use some of this unbleached titanium too. It's like a little bit not as bright as white, so I'll get a little bit more of a softening effect without losing all my yellow. Okay, that looks really good. So I've got a couple tones here, and I think I'm gonna mix up. Let me go ahead and use my palette knife. I'm gonna mix up some phthalo green. Clear off the space. I've got zero space on here anymore. So I keep trying to work around it, and I'm just gonna clean it off. This is just a glass palette and a regular paint scraper they use for scraping paint off glass windows and things, you know, painters do when they're painting around windows or scraping stuff off windows, tags and things. All right. So phthalo green, phthalo blue, and burnt sienna. right like that. And I'm going to make a nice, really dark green. This will be our nice shadowy green color. Right. And then I want to make a brighter, really, really yellow green, really mainly yellow. So I'm just going to scrape up what little bit is right there with my yellow and get my white and mix those two together. I might get a little bit of this green that has the burnt sienna in it because that'll tone it, neutralize it a little bit. Okay. This is the area that's going to be hit by the sunlight, be the brightest grass in our little grassy area. Okay. And then I'm going to scrape this up so that I can save it. Use it. Okay. I think that'll be good. I think that'll be good for now. So I've got this color on this brush here. And let me see if this is the right. I might even, yeah, I think I can get it small enough. I'm going to tap it. Depends on how you want to load your brush. So if I'm doing grass, I'm gonna pull through this way so that I could get, you know, nice smooth. But if I want these like foliage, I want to tap it because that's gonna kind of separate out those bristles a little bit differently, so I don't have it so neat. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and start just by kind of laying out sort of our lightest area right there. There's a little patch of light happening, and then there's some little grasses down in here, so I'm going to set my brush down and just kind of flip it up. I'm going to go ahead and do like a little grassy like stuff there, a little bit of one right here, and then I love this one because it's just like this circle, so do this little circle right there. And then we'll put other colors around this, but this will be kind of the start for us. And then let's go ahead and tap in here. And this whole area has got a lot of light hitting it. Okay, and then there's this plant right here. And I think I'm going to move it over just a little bit and make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. Maybe get a little bit of the darker color too and have like all three on here. And at the base there's some of the darker green, so I don't want it to be just the light green. I want it to have a little bit of depth. Really cute. Okay, don't over tap, like you kind of want to just tap and move on and not do too much, because then you'll end up with solid areas. All right, I'm going to leave that, let that dry, and then we'll add some of this really bright yellowy green to it, and that'll really make it show up. And I could have probably gone a little bit darker with our background, but I think once we do our light green, then it'll be really obvious. All right, so let's use this brush. This is a script liner, and I'm going to get some phthalo blue, phthalo green, burnt sienna, but maybe a little bit more burnt sienna this time. Just a little bit more on the brown side than this color was. All right, and then add lots of water to it. This is a liner brush. Liner brushes, you need fluid, and we did a whole little mini lesson on lining too. So what painting was that? I can't remember which one it was.
Lesson on lining.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna come from up here and have these lines coming down.
Did it on the mushroom garden.
Mushroom garden, okay.
And you also did some, that was the hashtag 23 lines.
Right.
And you also did a little bit in your basic beginner series way back.
Yes, yes. Yeah, okay, I'm off camera there.
Oops, sorry, I had zoomed in while you were doing that last part.
Okay, I'm holding it fairly back and just using the tip of it. You should not have any pressure on this. So if you are having to press down to get the paint to come off, then you need to add lots of water to your paint. It should come right off without any work. All right, I'm gonna do one more here and then we'll call that good. And then there's a few little lines coming through here. That looks good. Okay. Then I'm going to use this dark color, add some water. Maybe a little bit of black. And go ahead and add my branches. These are going to come across, and we actually have a couple of them in this background area that are actually hitting some light, so we need to make sure that make sure that this area is done before you do this too, because you're painting over your background. So you won't be able to fix the, background light there if you're after we paint over it. So obvious, but just needs to be said. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to get some of this lighter green, maybe a little bit of the burnt sienna. And do a couple branches with that right in here. Okay. All right, so let's do those ones that have the light first. And I don't know. I think I'm going to use this Deerfoot Stippler because I can kind of get the lines and the foliage, and I'm going to be doing a motion where I'm setting my brush down and pulling down just a little bit to get these kind of pine needle looking effect. So I'm going to set my brush down and tap it like that. Okay. And I want more blue in these ones, so I'm going to get the Ultramarine Blue. And on the top of the branches, I'm going to kind of tap the blue and then do some that's got just the green too. And there's going to be some lighter green that's popping up here and there too. These are a little bit more complicated than they originally look. There's more going on with these than at first glance, you know. Okay, and the thing with this too is that you want to make sure that your darkness of your needles are the same darkness as our branch, or close to, because otherwise you're going to end up looking like you've got, especially like in these areas where you want your dark to cover the branch, you can end up with it looking like it's a weird outliner, you know, like something's missing, you know. It just doesn't look quite right. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm going back over here with a little bit of black to darken up some of these areas here, just along the branch and where it attaches. That's starting to look good. All right, keep on going here. I'm gonna get some more ultramarine blue. A lot of blue coming through here. It's really pretty. And it doesn't have to go just on the branches that you've drawn or painted too. Some of them are, you know, have thicker areas, so I'm not just doing that. I'm going to get some of this olive toned. I don't remember what color it was. I think it was just the burnt sienna mixed with this green here. And I'm going to get some of the lighter color and mix that in. So get that burnt sienna, some green. I have not cleaned out my brush, so I've got all kinds of colors going on here. I'm going to put some of that down. Kind of where the light's hitting the edges of the, right at the tips of some of these branches. Right, and I'm going to go ahead and do it all the way out here before I do my dark. I really should be doing it this way, I think. Yeah, look at all this nice colors happening here. This is great. Okay, I'm going to get some of the more of this lighter color, and I'm going to go ahead and start working on these ones too while I've got this light color on here. And these ones are kind of a little bit more clustered, so they're kind of doing these little bops of clusters instead of like the long all the way along the limb for whatever reason. And I'm also kind of thinking about the way I'm staggering these branches too. We can improve upon nature a little bit, you know, and if your branches are like overlapping too much or too similar, you know, so I have these two sections here and I've got one in between and below, and I'm doing that purposefully to give it a little bit more dynamic movement and spacing. And then, you know, I'm gonna get some blue and add it to this light green, so I have kind of a light turquoisey color happening similar to this background on this side.
Hey, real quick.
And I'm going to bring it out a little bit more right there. What?
Which size deer stippler are you using?
This is the 3/8 inch.
3/8. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. A 3/8 inch on this size canvas is kind of the biggest that I would probably try to do, because otherwise you're going to have a hard time controlling it. I get a little bit more white. I want a little pop of really light color at the bottom of some of these. Just a few of these. Getting hit by that light coming through. All right, that looks good. Some of them are really bright, so I'm going to get some of this really bright green, and I need to keep this sprayed down too because it's trying to dry on me. Anytime you're mixing a color like this, it'll dry faster. So.
My buttons aren't working for some reason.
Just trying to soften up a little bit, but that's really looking good, I think. I like how it's obvious that this one is kind of more in the sunlight. So I'm going to get some more of this brighter green here. Do just a little bit of this. I don't want a lot because I still like that really like smoky look that's happening over here, that blue tone. Just don't want to lose all of that, but and to get these kind of long branchy type of ones, I'm really using that tip and angling it really heavily so that I'm getting paint along that tip. And then right there where that branch is coming through, I may want to have that go over this color, so I might try to go back over. So you could probably like save or maybe do a couple branches over the top after you get it done. So save a few and do some with branches coming over and add the branch back in over it. 'Cause sometimes it can be hard to match it up, exactly to what you've already got going on. If that makes sense. All right. Okay. I really like how this is coming along now. Looking good. I'm getting more of this light green here. And I'm gonna really just press down and get some good texture on it now. Okay, good. Good, and then let's use a little bit of burnt sienna with what's on my brush here. A little bit of the white. Burnt sienna and yellow. Create kind of a golden, yellowy color with a little bit of white, and I'm going to use that on some of these on this side. Really pretty. Let's use some of this in these trees over here too. These are going to have some of it too. Just a little bit of it. Okay, just look and see where you're seeing this color through your trees. It's just peeking in here and there. Oh, this is our sun right here. I just saw it. There's our sunlight right there. How did I miss that? Yeah, it's right there. It's the whole time. I didn't even notice it. There we go. I'm popping that in there. I'm going to wipe out my brush. Try to blend that out a little bit. Just pop it in there, bright, and yeah, that worked. Glad I'm around this side. I'm not even really dry brushing. I'm just stippling here to do this. Okay. Well, no, that's not, because I did my light coming from over here. Shoot. I should have put it up higher now that I see that.
Erase.
Well, I just realized I did that wrong.
Quick,
I did. Yeah, I know. Hold on.
Dump water on it.
Dumpster fire. Okay, I need to put it right here.
Well, you had it more centered.
Well, yeah, but these ones are coming this way, so maybe right here. So I still need to put it in. I just need to put it up higher. Yeah, because I did crop this photo too, so. I'm moving the branches around a little bit. Okay, so let's just cover that up. Just pretend like we didn't do that. It's all right. And is that your stomach growling? Mark's stomach is
sending you messages.
Commenting on. All right, there we go. Yeah, that looks good, and that's a better placement for it from what we've done already. All right, so I'm going to get some white and add it to this bright yellowy brown color. I still have this green in my brush too. So this is just a little bit brighter than what we've already done. Let me hit some light on this. Even though it looks light, it once we get our other darker colors on, it's not going to be light enough. So I want it to be, I want that a lot of play between the light and dark here. So don't be afraid of going really, really light and really, really dark. That's what's going to give it that really wow effect that we want. Okay, and I'm going to use this color down here and add some, maybe get some burnt sienna. We'll just put in some burnt sienna here and there. There's all kinds of colors and things going on in here. Down in our foreground. I think I picked up a little bit of black too. Okay. Let me get, now in our shadowy blue areas, I want my shadowy green areas, I want some blue. So if I just use maybe Ultramarine Blue and add some white to it, I'm going to get kind of a purpley tone, and then I can add a little bit of my light green, and it'll create a really kind of nice green that's very cool. Almost blue. Nice. Okay, that's going to be really nice in our shadow area. So we don't want this color in our sunlight, because it looks, that cool blue makes it look shadowy. But it looks really nice to lighten up this foreground in our shadow areas. Give it a little bit brighter value. Okay, then I'm going to grab some of this brighter green here. I'm going to go around this area that has this light green patch. There's like a little transition there. It's not just that bright color. And then let's transition some of these too. Put a little bit of this darker green in here in a few places around where the light's hitting it. Okay, it's starting to look really nice. I like it. Okay, This brush is about done because it's so wet, so I'm going to get another one. Thankfully, I have several. So a fresh one that is not wet. That'll allow me to do a little bit more here. All right, so now is when, if we want to do any more with our sun rays, we need to do it now before we do any more. I think I'm pretty happy with where they're at. I might do a few little streaks here though. So I'm gonna get some glaze and some white. And if you have zinc white, you can use that. I use a little bit of blue with it. I'm just going to, now that I know where that is, why did I not notice that before? I don't know. It's very strange. I'm going to put in some rays over the top of some of these trees, just a little bit. Just a little. Nice. And then right over here, let's do I like it. Okay, just a little bit more obvious. There's just a little area right there, and then I'm going to put my dark over the top of it. All right, I'm really liking this. Getting excited. It's starting to look really good. So getting some white and getting some of this bright yellow-green. I'm going to use this really almost pure white color right in here, just to really pop that greenery out. And just a little bit right here. I love it. Why haven't I not done one like this before? This is great. Thank you, Laura, for the suggestion. I love this. It's been really fun to paint. Hope you guys try it.
I probably won't.
You probably won't?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
You have to make it a little more interesting.
Oh, yeah, add a tank.
You know, or some.
How did I know?
Yeah. Just. You have this underlying theme in your tutorials. No tanks.
No tanks.
You're like, no thanks. No tanks.
No tanks. Okay, loving this. Really pretty. Gonna go a little bit of bright pops of green on our trees here. And we're gonna add dark too, but this will be kind of just underneath everything. Look how pretty that is. And then there's an area right here that's getting the light too, that's hanging down. I'm going to get a little bit more of that kind of more neutrally tone in this area right here. Like it. And right there, there's just a bright little bit right at the tip of it. Okay. And let's get our dark. We're almost done, guys. Getting the Phthalo blue, Ultramarine blue, and we get some of this dark green here and mix those two together. And get really, really dark here. So I want a really dark curtain of green in some of these areas. That's going to be what sells the rest of the painting. This is where you got to be brave, because you want this contrast. You can't get this look without it. So you got to really, really go dark. Get a little bit of black even. And go along. Don't want to use too much black, because the black will kind of suck all the color out of it. But like it. Ultramarine blue. Got one. I need one that kind of crosses over. This area is almost solid black right in through here. And there's just these little peaks of the light popping through. And really make sure you kind of bury these light areas too. They're not on top, they're behind. So we need these dark branches over the top of them to make them look right. So these dark branches need to cover, cross over, and slightly cover them. See, now it's pushing them back. Okay, and this one's got that dark color all the way on it, except for the very tip.
Are you gonna show your tulips?
Oh yeah, I need to show my tulips.
I think
We painted our bonus video for March. What month is it? No, March. It's my birthday month. My birthday is next week. Yeah, I did it on a large canvas too. It's been a while since I've done one this big. So this was our bonus video for a $5 Patreon members. Did it in about 4 hours-ish, something like that. Right at 4 hours, I think. But yeah, turned out really nice. So if you want to see how to sign up for that, you can join there. And then if you want this plus more,
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Then the $10 members are working on this, and we're working on this all month long. So the $5 bonus video level, they get one extra video a month.
But it was like 4 hours long.
But yeah, they're very long videos. And then the $10 level gets a 1 to 2 hour video every week that we do, and we work on the same project all month long. So last month we did the Animals of Africa series, and there's tons and tons of content. So we're, obviously he's not done yet. We're working on different ones all month long there. So that's the $10 level. Plus they also get their own Facebook group where they can post whatever they're working on and give those for critique.
And they voted on the tulip painting, right?
Yeah, they get to vote on what we paint. Every now and then I'll post a poll so they get to kind of choose what coming up they want to paint. So yeah, it's a great group of folks. Hopefully we have some great patrons in there. They're really sweet people. And it's a lot smaller group, so it's a lot more, you have more interaction with me. One-on-one, not one-on-one, but you get the idea, more kind of. And Mark's not there, so there's always that.
It's the bonus. I think it's the level with the most subscribers.
Not saying there's a relationship to that for any reason. I'm just saying
It's
facts.
just coincidence.
Facts are facts. So you draw your own conclusions.
I know. It's okay.
promise you will not hear any dad jokes during the...
And that's depressing.
I know. Sorry, Mona. So going in here and just darkening up giving kind of more mid-tone-ish. They're not super dark. They're not as dark as this over here. They're fairly dark though. I'm getting this darkish color and adding just a little bit of blue to it. And then as they go up, they're a little bit lighter, but not doing too much texture here. And I kind of want a little bit of a mid-tone green, so I'm going to get some of this mid-green and add some of that too, kind of over the top to blend in. I feel like it was really light and really dark, so I need kind of a mid-tone to balance it out. And so back in here, I'm going to put back up some of the light color. You know, if you cover too much of your light color up, you can go back in and add some back in there, but I like it. I like where it's going. And see, I've taken that original photo and just exaggerated it just a little bit. So I've made this side just a little bit darker, added a little bit more detail than was there necessarily, you know, just like a little bit more, a few more branches and stuff like that, just to make it a little bit more visually appealing. But this was a really cool photo to start with, so we had a lot to work with. Just a little bit darker up at the very top up there. Okay, I like it. And then I'm going to use some of the blue, and maybe use this green that's in my brush here, just to add just a little bit of variation to this dark area. So not going lighter much, just slight bits of stuff happening in there, so it's not just dark all through there. But that's really good. And I think I want some of that phthalo blue, a little bit of phthalo green, ultramarine blue, so kind of that teal bluish color. And I'm going to use it. And here I might add a little bit of white. And I'm just going to kind of fuzz out the edges, blur out the edges of some of this in just a few places. So just some of it's a little bit fuzzy, so I can kind of dry brush it almost kind of, or, you know, some of the color, the edges of the branches are a little bit more misty, and this will kind of help fog it up and make it look a little bit more mysterious. Just using a slightly cloudy version of that dark color. Just a tiniest little bit of white in it. That gives it that kind of misty feeling. Okay, then I'm going to go really dark in this corner here. I'm going to get the black and just kind of tap in with the black. Add some texture and stuff back in here. And make sure if I need it, I can, you know, go over some of my lighter areas with it too, or you know, some of these areas in here if I need it. But I'm liking that a lot. And I want to use a little bit of it with maybe a little bit of glaze. This is the black again. And I'm just going to kind of darken up some of these areas, add a cast shadow on some of this down here. So this is transparent, so I'm not wanting to go black all the way and lose all my detail. I'm just kind of adding shadows to what's already there. Going over the top of it a little bit and softening it up. Darkening it up. Okay, and I want a little bit of this glaze, maybe a little bit of this blue that we were using before. Maybe a little bit of green in it, I feel like. And I'm going to add it just at the bottom of that plant and tap it in so that it has a little bit of depth of dark, because I kind of lost I did so much light in that area, and that can happen. So I'm just adding some dark back in right there in that plant. And then I think I'm going to just use the tip of this liner brush. And he didn't like that noise. And I'm going to get that lightest green and add a little bit of white to it, and a little bit of yellow, a little bit more yellow, a little bit more light white. So it's just like 1 or 2 shades lighter. Come on. There we go. No, this has gone longer than I thought it would. I've been just taking my time, making sure I get all the detail in it that I want. So I have kind of a little bit of both the dark and the light on here. Kind of dipping both in here. And I'm going to do some long, thin ones that are a little bit more strategically placed. It's really hard to kind of get controlled brush strokes with any of the brushes, the foliage brushes that I was using. So this is going to help me kind of do some more directed little teeny tiny bits of foliage. You can see I'm kind of doing this spray here. So doing this fan shape. But make sure that you kind of have some that are crisscrossing over so that they're not all, perfectly aligned in a fan, because that'll look a little bit abnormal. So make sure you do some that are kind of crossing over in front and things, different directions. But I love this little plant. He's our little plant that could, right? He's way out in the middle of the forest here, and he's reaching toward the light. Got all these big trees around him, but he's not giving up. A lot of adversity here in this little plant. He's overcoming. I love it. Okay, getting some white and just gonna do some little bright little dabs right here at the base of him. Love it. All right, and then you can always go back into, if you really want to add more, obvious detail, like you can go back in with this brush and add some, more, maybe not like that. Add some more fine little brush strokes at the end of some of these branches to really kind of make them look more realistic. You can't get the foliage brushes are great for filling in large details, and like doing a tree in like a few minutes, but they won't be super detailed, you know. So if you want more detail like this, you do have to use like a smaller brush and go in there and kind of manually add them. But once we've got all this foliage in here, it's not that big of a deal just to add a few little extra brush strokes on top, and it makes a big impact because we've already got the base of the tree already set, and so it's not as time consuming, you know, to add these little bits of detail to our trees and just bring them that much more realism, a little bit more attention to detail. I'm loving it. I think this is really probably one of my favorite paintings we've done in a while. It's, as far as in the landscapes, I really like it, how it's turned out. So let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed this, if you want to see more landscape-y type stuff, or what kind of paintings you like to see. I always like to hear from you, and we have over 700 videos on YouTube. Oh my gosh, we've done so many videos. Somebody was asking me for how to get to one of my videos the other day, like what the name of it was. I'm like, I've done too many now. They're all running together in my head, sadly. But like, I hate that. Like, I kind of generally know, but I don't remember the exact names of all of them anymore. Even I try. Okay, I think I'm gonna call that just about done. Get a little bit more of the phthalo green here with this neutral green, and add a few of these like small leafy strokes on this side too. Don't want the other side to be the only side with any of the detail. But no questions or comments or anything at the end?
No questions or comments.
Wow.
But
I've been quiet today.
A super chat.
Ooh, super chat.
Do you want to do super chat?
Yeah, do it.
Alrighty. Let me get my stuff together. Sure do it right.
Nice.
Super chat.
Super chat.
Alrighty, I need to get my button to work. I think that worked.
The stream deck's not working right tonight.
Okay.
So let's see.
The OBS updated this week, so maybe that's why.
Alright, so we had one from Celtic, and there was no message, but a very good explanation of the meme.
Like lemon character moving his head from left to right with his mouth wide open and red hearts in his eyes. Nice. I like it. I picture it vividly. Thank you for spelling that out for us.
And then
We just got this one in.
Ooh,
The
I like it.
on.
Paintings like this and Angela's voice equals relaxation at the end of a hectic day. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Carol. That's
thank you
sweet.
so much.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we appreciate your donation. That was really sweet. Really, really appreciate it.
Yes, so thank you to Carol and to Celtic for their
Yes,
support.
Carolyn. Yes, absolutely. All right, I am just adding. Whoop. Watch for the adding.
There
Whoop,
it
whoop,
is.
whoop, there it is. Oh yeah. I said I was gonna splatter, so I think I'm gonna do minimal splatter. I don't think it needs a ton, so I'm not gonna do a lot. But I am gonna use this light whitish color here that I just.
Splatters, don't tell Dave.
Just a few. I feel like there might be a few little splatters in the sunlight coming through the trees. You know, little fairy splatters. You could probably be better to use my toothbrush, because what the toothbrush will do is do finer. If I can find it, there it is. It'll do finer dots than my brush will. So it'll do teeny tiny little, almost microscopic little dots. And the larger the dot you want, the more water you add to your, but if you add too much and you get soup, so you don't want it super, you know. I like it.
You need the baby bear
That
amount.
was good. Yeah, exactly. Just right. All right, and then I'm going to add my signature, and then we'll be all done. So thank you guys so much again for watching today.
And for those who are new, below this video, there's the list of materials, paintbrushes, links to Amazon, Blick, Brush Guys, all kinds of good things if you need more art supplies. Social medias.
I don't like that. I'm going to take that off. I don't want it so close to it's too dark. I lost my whole dark side of that. I'm going to sign with the darker color so that it blends in a little bit more. But yes, so sorry, down in the description, yes, that's important to let them know. If you need to buy art supplies, I've got a whole list, all kinds of lists down there of different places to buy, and it helps support our channel too, so that's really nice.
Right,
really
and no
appreciate
extra cost.
Right, no extra cost. It's just I've gone through and listed some of the materials we most commonly use. My favorite things like that pen that I just used, and I'm going to use my brush here, and the brushes and the paints and things. And
so are Whiskers on Kittens in that list?
I don't think so.
Okay. So that isn't one of your favorite things? You're welcome now that song is stuck in your head.
Yeah, thanks. A few months too early. Okay, so signed it a little bit more subtly there, so it blends in a little bit better. All right, there we go. So there's our redwood forest tree. Thanks again to Laura Lane Dover for donating the photo for us to use, and I love how this one turned out. So I hope you guys liked it too, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.